Instagram going, and we'll jump in with today's early morning intuitive guidance. We have good stuff today. Psychic vampires. Doesn't that sound like fun? Okay, so that is working. Good morning, good morning. Welcome to your early morning intuitive guidance. I'm Dr. Bonnie Nussbaum, ready for yoga class. So excuse the less than professional garb, but there's yoga to do. And I'm so happy and grateful now that my back is in good enough condition I can go back to yoga. Yay! It's the little things. So we have a Tosha Silver chapter today, which I always love because it's cheeky humor and makes points in ways that I think make the information accessible to people. So hopefully you will enjoy this chapter as well. And when I say chapter, if you're new here, don't panic because they're like 2 or 3 pages, potty reading, that kind of thing. So it'll be fine. It'll be good. Hope you all had a lovely day yesterday. It was gorgeous here. Absolutely gorgeous. So was sitting in the park and all the little goslings are running around and big geese are hissing because we're too close to what they consider their babies. But it was fun watching them. And then one of the homeowners across the street from the park, which is on a ravine in a way. Good morning, Barb. Glad you're here. Welcome. Their hills are very steep in their backyards coming down to the park. And way back when, my dad was hired by one of the doctors that lived in one of those fabulous houses to mow the hill. They had planted grass on that hill. So he would stand at the top of a retaining wall, and it was an electric mower, had this gigantic cord on it, run it down, move it over a little bit, pull it back up, run it down, move it over a little bit, pull it back up. And we as kids would go play in the park and do whatever, gave mom a break, but we'd laugh hysterically because as he would let it down the hill, cars driving through on the road would panic thinking it was a runaway mower and steer all over the place. It was really fun as a kid. Good morning, Nancy. Glad you are here. Welcome. But that particular hill now has been overgrown. That particular person no longer owns the home. My dad's now 91. So, this was 50 years ago, right? And the person who owns that property now, this great big hilly area, good morning, Beth, glad you're here, hired the local sheep and goat person to put up their little fence and let the sheep and the goats clear off the hill. So we were watching the sheep and goats have a salad. It was very impressive. So glad you're all here this morning. Hello to those of you who'll be watching after the fact. We have a really good chapter this morning, but let's get ourselves in. Good morning, rise and roar. Oh, that's even better than shining. Gotta love it. Look out. Good morning. So let's get ourselves into a place where we're ready to receive this message as receptively as possible. Okay, so a little bit of tapping and some breath. Breathe in, breathe out. Feel that little bit of anticipation that you feel when new information is coming your way. Breathe in, breathe out. Perhaps your mantra becomes, I am ready to receive. Breathe in, breathe out. Feeling yourself grounded to the chair, to Mother Nature, drawing up Mother Nature energy through your feet. Breathe in, breathe out through the crown of your head. Breathing down divine energy and down into Mother Earth. Breathe in, breathe up, breathe in, breathe down. And that feel good? Doesn't that feel good? So again, we have Tosha today. Outrageous openness, letting the divine take the lead. Instead of trying to wrestle our lives into submission, being in the flow, being in the flow. And this chapter is called Ahoy the Psychic Vampire. The quote is by Anonymous. Listen to your first impressions. They almost never steer you wrong. Listen to your first impressions. They almost never steer you wrong. Good morning, Abigail. Good morning, Barb. What it says on my shirt is Drive for a Cure. This is actually a 2024 shirt, but one of the local car dealerships does a thing to raise money for breast cancer research, that you can go there, wait in line, and drive any of the vehicles that they have sitting there. So they've got like 20 or 30 vehicles lined up for people. Pick what you want. So if you want to try a fancy car, good morning, Gwen. Glad you're here. I actually tried one that I had considered buying, but went with the Subaru instead. So this was my opportunity to test drive it. So it was actually fun. They have you do a gigantic loop around that whole area. They had hot dogs, all kinds of fun stuff. And I think they raised a really good chunk of money. And this was, they'd been doing that for quite a few years. This was the first time I participated. A friend of mine who had breast cancer invited me to participate. So it was cool seeing all the people lined up ready to do their test drive. And there we all were making laps. So that was fun. Good morning, Gwen. Glad you're here. Welcome, welcome. So our chapter is Ahoy the Psychic Vampire. Listen to your first impressions. They almost never steer you wrong. So here's Tosha sharing a story that helps us make this point. I, again, am into the storytelling thing. I think it is such a great way to soak up information, make it make sense for us. So my first metaphysics teacher used to always give the same advice. Pay attention to how you feel when you're around someone, and also how you feel when you leave them. Pay attention. Don't question your response. If you feel bad, simply move away. Lovely advice. And sometimes that's difficult because that person who sets off this response in us is a family member, is our boss. So we'll talk in a bit about what can you do about it when it's a circumstance where you can't just say, yeah, I'm out of here, you know? So she says, my friend Jane recently told me a story. She said, I was invited to a Thanksgiving meal where the hostess was a talkative, colorful figure. While she had a certain charisma, my immediate instinct was to run for the hills. Seriously, the minute I walked into her beautiful, well-appointed home, I felt unaccountably nervous and wanted to leave. But I ignored this sense, thinking, how silly, she's adorable and engaging. I must be nuts. What's wrong with me to feel like this? Yet, sure enough, as the evening unfolded, the hostess became more and more drunk and more vocal. She eventually moved to be smack next to my friend, and she soon attached herself like a parasite to a host to make a steady stream of disturbing comments. She eventually cast negativity and doubt on every area of Jane's life, from her relationship to her work. Jane felt more and more drained and exhausted. She could barely pry herself away to stagger out the door late that night. Jane said, once she had her tentacles in, I literally could not move. I was transfixed. It was the damnedest thing. Did you ever see those National Geographic shows where an insect paralyzes its prey? That's what I felt like. She seemed to psychically know exactly how to create my deepest fears. She grimaced. It took me a whole day of Epsom salt baths to wash her toxic energy off and stop hearing her inside. I told Jane she had just been hit up by a psychic vampire, big time. And they can be some of the most seemingly charming folks around. Funny thing was, her instincts knew the moment she walked in the door, but she pushed them away. So again, we want to listen to that guidance. If I call it my creepometer, if something sets off my creepometer, we're done. We're done. I may back off to a distance and kind of get a sense, but usually I'll then hear something or see something that confirms that the creepometer is accurate. So things you can do. Again, if this is a person who's in your life and at the moment you can't extricate yourself, what do? She talked about the Epsom salts bath. That's a good way to go. It's a drawing agent, right? So get all the yuck out of yourself. Going into a situation, if you know you're going to be with someone who tends to be that energy vampire, sucking the energy right out of you, and by the time you leave, you feel like a shell. There's a couple things you can do. Donna Eden, who's an amazing energy worker, taught a bunch of us what's called the zip up. So you imagine that there's a zipper from your pubic bone all the way up to your lower lip, and you just zip yourself up, and you can't hemorrhage the energy anymore. They can't access it. You can still go about your business doing what you're doing, but they can't access your energy. So it's basically you're making a conscious decision to protect your energy. Another one that I love is the protective bubble. So you imagine that you're walking around in this clear protective bubble, and I call it the semi-permeable membrane because good stuff can still get in. If there's love, if there's joy, if there's happiness, if there's intellectual conversation, whatever it is, the things that feed your soul, those can get in. The yuck can't get in, can't make it through the membrane. So you can walk around in a protective bubble. That one's fun too. You can also, if you get unexpectedly sideswiped by a psychic vampire, there's things that you can do. One that's really good is go outdoors somewhere and just kind of slam your hands on the ground. I used to do this after sessions with clients where it was really, really intense because most of the work I was doing was trauma work, and there's significant trauma out there. So you kind of feel like you get the yuck on you. So after a session, I would slam my hands on the carpet just to kind of clear out my own energy. You can smudge yourself. So a lot of places like bookstores and trying to think of where else. There was a crystal shop in town. They have since closed, but they would have like sage or sweetgrass or cedar or any of the sacred herbs. You can just smudge yourself. Do the bottoms of your feet, the whole thing. Just kind of waft it up over your head, and you're clearing your energy field. Basically, the intention is this isn't my energy. I'm getting rid of it. What do you do when you're with a family member and always waiting for the shoe to drop? Yes, good question. Good question. Again, that one I think requires a psychological and emotional distance. And when we're in our family, it's kind of that sense of too close for comfort. Blow out your experiential field. Put it in a context. Think about it in terms of compared to all of Mother Earth, here's this circumstance. Compared to the universe, here's this circumstance. I personally like using the universe one. So the toxic family member that I struggle with, I'll often say, in the long range scheme of things, 500 years from now, is this going to matter at all? And the answer is no. The answer is no. So then I work to create this spaciousness, which then you have less skin in the current game, and it makes it easier to create the distance. But kind of go listen to what Tosha's saying also about this particular the vampire that her friend Jane was dealing with kind of had that ability to know where are the Achilles heels. So I'm going to take a shot at her relationship. I'm going to take a shot at her work situation, blah, blah, blah. If you get that where it's that person in your family, Barb, is always going for a particular aspect of you. Let's say I'm going to make stuff up. They pick on your hair, they pick on your size, they pick on your voice, they pick on your, your religious affiliation, they pick on your political affiliation, whatever it is. If they can get to you, if they can poke a button, it means there's a button to poke. That's where your work needs to be, addressing that particular button. Is there something about you that feels vulnerable in that particular area? So I'm just going to pick one for shits and giggles here. Let's say it's the political stuff, and they're poke, poke, poke at the political stuff. Take a look at yourself. What am I not comfortable with about my own political affiliation that this person can poke that button so much? Or what is it about that person? Well, they're my elder, or I always looked up to them, or they're just loud, so they override my whole sensory experience. Whatever your answer is, that's also your portal for creating the corrective experience. For instance, if it's that they're loud, find a way to mute them. You can again, your mind is a powerful thing, and your mind does not know the difference between fantasy and reality. If I told you to imagine that you had a hammer in your hand and that you were pounding in a nail and you held your hand still, but we had electrodes on your arm to measure, those muscles that would be used to hammer in that nail would be firing. The brain doesn't know the difference, right? So use that to your advantage. Imagine that this person who's loud and obnoxious has a rheostat on him, and you just in your mind turn the rheostat down, and it begins to muffle and mute the sound, right? Physically, remove yourself to a different room. Might you still hear them in the distance? Yes, but find something interesting enough. Maybe you can strike up a conversation with a different family member that suits you. Maybe it's saying, let's go for a walk after this Thanksgiving dinner, and you and one of the family members that you're comfortable with go for a walk. There's lots of things that you can do to make yourself more immune to the energy suckers, the psychic vampires of the world. I love having experiences watching people who are really, really good at this. I remember one video of Barack Obama. This guy just launched into him and attacked, and he was just very matter of fact and placid and offered a response and then moved on. And I'm like, wow, that's a skill. So practice, 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 but also use it as your opportunity to get a sense of where are your Achilles heels and what is needed for those to heal. Okay. So it's kind of like there's an opportunity in the difficulty. Yes, nervous system regulation, absolutely. And again, when you're in the amygdala hijack, warning, warning, Will Smith, that is going to be a hard time to ramp it down. But the more you've practiced prior or the more you practice after, so the next situation, you're more prepared. Make sure you keep your breathing deep and even because that signals that chicken little part of your brain, all is well. Well, she's breathing deeply. We must be okay. Keep working on it. Keep practicing with it because there's always going to be those energy suckers in the world. And sometimes when we can get enough distance, we can actually take a look at them and kind of do my little brother had a t-shirt at one point that said, "It must suck to be you." And it's kind of that thing. Wow, it must suck to be like that. It must suck to walk in a room and have everybody instantly tighten up. I don't want to be that person. Maybe they don't want to be that person, but for right there at that point, they are. So practice your zip up, practice your bubble, practice keeping your breath nice, deep, and easy, practice removing yourself from the situation. You do not have to hold yourself hostage to anyone. Anyone. If someone's going to get their nose out of joint because you're going to take a walk after Thanksgiving dinner, their problem, not yours. And that's one of the things that I found with getting older. It's like, I don't care anymore. If you don't like what I say or how I do something, meh. So that is our chapter for today. Hopefully, there's some useful things in there for you to practice. Hopefully, it helps you take a look at yourself in terms of what might I need to mend here? What might I need to mend? Have an awesome Thursday. We will see you again tomorrow morning, way early. It's Scarlet Friday. And Saturday's going to be the same. Yes, because I have to be from Appleton to Freedom, which is maybe a 20-minute drive, by 6 a.m. to pick up a friend on Saturday. So the next 2 days are going to be early, early, early. We'll see you again tomorrow. Remember, you're capable of far more than you think you are, including protecting yourself from the psychic vampires. Bye-bye.